Welcome back. In the last lesson, we reset what closing really is. In this lesson, we focus on something more subtle and more important. Knowing when to close, because most closing mistakes don't happen at the close. They happen before it. Either you try to close too early before a real decision exists, or you miss the signals and keep talking long after clarity is already there. Both cost deals. This lesson is about learning to recognize when a decision is actually available. Let's start with a critical distinction. Interest is not readiness. A prospect can be engaged, curious, and asking questions, and still not ready to decide. Readiness only appears when three things are true. The problem is clear, the impact matters, and ownership exists. If any one of those is missing, closing will feel forced. That's not a closing problem. That's a readiness problem. So what does readiness actually sound like? Here are some common signals. The prospect starts talking about timing, next steps, implementation, internal conversations. You might hear things like, how would this work in practice? What would the next step look like? When could this realistically start? Who else would need to be involved? These aren't objections. They're decision language. They signal that the prospect is moving from evaluation to action. Another key signal. The questions become narrower. Earlier questions explore possibilities. Readiness questions reduce uncertainty. That shift matters. Now let's look at what isn't readiness. Polite interest sounds like, this is really interesting. Good to know. Let me think about it. Send me some information. Those aren't bad signs, but they're not decision signals. They mean the prospect is still processing or deferring. Trying to close a deal here creates pressure, and pressure creates resistance. Before you invite a decision, do a quick internal check. Ask yourself, do they clearly own this problem? Have they acknowledged the impact? Do they have the authority to decide or a clear path to it? If the answer to any of those is no, clarify instead. Readiness is not something you force. It's something you notice. Here's a simple example. The prospect says, this definitely sounds useful. That's not readiness. A clean response might be, okay, what part feels undecided at the moment? You're not closing, you're checking readiness. Now compare that to this. The prospect says, if we did move forward, how would this actually roll out? That is readiness. At that point, inviting a decision is appropriate. Not urgent, not pushy, just clear. Many sellers mistake silence for hesitation. They feel the gap and rush to fill it. They add more detail, more explanation, more reassurance. That often pushes readiness away. If the prospect is quiet, let them be quiet. Silence at this stage often means they're deciding. Your job is not to rescue the moment. Your job is to hold it. One final reminder. You don't close because you want a decision. You close because the conditions are right. When readiness is there, a calm invitation feels natural. When it isn't, even the best closing line will feel wrong. Learn to recognize the difference. In the next lesson, we'll look at how to invite the decision itself, cleanly, calmly, and without pressure. When you're ready, continue to Module 6.3.